There were, of course, stunning new disclosures this week on the scope of the federal government's electronic surveillance programs. The Washington Post reporting Friday that the NSA repeatedly broke privacy rules, thousands of times. Let's take it to the Brain Trust. Zerlina Maxwell, contributor at thegrio.com, Amy Holmes, anchor of Real News at The Blaze, and Bob Franken, syndicated columnist for King Features in New York City, with us in the flesh today. Good to see all of you. Zerlina, let me start with you. Post report from documents, of course, leaked to it from Edward Snowden, found that the agency broke these rules again thousands of times. Thousands of times since Congress gave the NSA these broad powers back in 2008. Do we expect that anything is going to come of this revelation other than the temporary outrage that generally subsides?
I hope so. I don't know that something real and substantive will happen, but certainly there needs to be more oversight. What these new documents show is that the claim that nothing untoward was happening is not true. So I don't know if the number 2,776 in one single year of infractions is a big number or a small number, because we don't know how
the NSA says
right,
small,
right.
Says minuscule.
So it could be like 1/10 of a percentage of the amount of data that they were collecting. So we just need more information.
What were you about to say?
Well, I was going to say part of the Washington Post report is that the NSA has been so misleading. Yeah. So we don't know. They've misled Congress. They've misled the oversight committees in terms of the extent. But this also means that the President of the United States has been misleading, because he went on Jay Leno and he said there is no domestic surveillance.
And Bob, Amy took me to my next point. Of course, the president from the White House a week before essentially defending the NSA to a certain extent, defending the practices. Do we think that the president just did not know what was happening at the NSA, or what do we make of the president's claims and then what we heard from the NSA just 7 days later?
Well, he's been parsing his words very, very carefully, up to what we could politely call being disingenuous. For instance, he says that Congress is fully briefed on this kind of thing, and members of Congress have said constantly that when they do go to an intelligence briefing, they get real distortions. They get all kinds of platitudes without any specifics. So what we have is a situation where the NSA has been caught once again, and it really gets us to the fundamental issue, which is you have to always worry with the authorities that if they have power, there's a potential that they're going to abuse it. You know,
Jelani caught me at a very interesting point early in the broadcast here. We were talking about stop and frisk, and he talked about the Fourth Amendment in general, essentially becoming one of the forgotten amendments over the past year and a half. Do we agree with that assessment? Is that something that has received bipartisan support, that the Fourth Amendment is under fire more than, especially the Second Amendment, which some would argue has become more important than the First Amendment?
Absolutely, and I think that the NSA scandal is joining the civil liberties left and the civil liberties right to have focus on this. I mean, here we are at this desk agreeing.
Yes, we should save the video.
Surveillance, and it is extraordinarily troubling. And another wrinkle to all of this, with Ed Snowden's disclosures, was that the NSA was collecting what they call metadata information about Verizon phone calls, domestically among American citizens. That also includes congressmen that have BlackBerries with Verizon programs. So there you have, the possible conflict of the NSA spying on Congress.
Well, imagine if they were writing the Fourth Amendment today, or imagine if back then they were writing the Fourth Amendment in an age where you had all the sophisticated technology. I suspect that even as they deliberated the Fourth Amendment, they'd probably be spied on.
I want to pivot here and switch gears just to something that this is something that sort of got my attention earlier this week, because we talked about it here on MSNBC, and there's some other folks talking about this commercial. A few weeks ago on this program, we featured a unique after-school program in Minneapolis. Take a listen. Take a look. More than 6 million views on YouTube so far. But to star in this particular video, you have to finish your homework first. All right, so now a group of kids from that program, they've made a back-to-school commercial for KMART. It's a national commercial, and it's a pretty big deal. But the ad itself apparently has drawn some negative comments, especially on Twitter, of course. M. Patrice tweeting, I think we have the tweet here, "Black people don't just rap and dance. for KMART's commercial to represent us in that way is belittling and deplorable. Boycott KMART. Another one from a woman named Ana Gutierrez. KMART is racially profiling black kids by having them rap about school on a bus. Oh, also that token white girl just to even it out. Sneaky. And then there's this. The KMART commercial with the children rapping makes me cringe. Like, what are you doing? I won't name names, but that's not just a sentiment expressed by folks we don't know on Twitter. There are some friends and colleagues of mine who have expressed a similar sentiment as well, that the portrayal of kids in this commercial plays into certain stereotypes and is demeaning and belittling. I wanted to get your collective take on that, Zerlina.
Everybody needs to calm down. This commercial is cute. They're rapping about school. This is a good thing, right?
How much they love school.
We're not rapping about drugs and women and money. We're rapping. So and that's first. And the second thing is, if hoodies and rapping makes you think that we're stereotyping black people, you either haven't been paying attention for the past 20 years because consumers of hip hop are majority white. So, and also, if a hoodie means thug to you, then you might have to reflect back on why that is.
I agree with absolutely everything you said, Zerlina.
This is amazing.
It's unprecedented.
But I think that there's another issue here, which is, why are we messing it up for these kids? They made a fantastic video.
Yeah.
They're obviously talented, adorable. Getting a national campaign ad is a huge success and a huge accomplishment. I think we should be applauding these kids, and they're rapping about how much they love school.
And Beats and Rhymes. Beats and Rhymes is a great group. Go ahead, Bob.
And how dare they be black? First of all, rap is hardly just a black genre these days. But again, everybody gets totally crazed about anything racial, or even the possibility that it's racial. Look at the upset that everybody had after the Cheerios commercial, which featured a mixed race couple.
And we talked about that here.
I mean, we have a country where a lot of people need to get a life.
What'd you say? What'd you call it? A permanent?
There are some people who just have a permanent sense of outrage.
A permanent sense of outrage. That's a good spot.
Which they shouldn't have here. They should be applauding these kids and dancing along with them.
And an open invitation for those kids to come back. Bob, I want to personally apologize to you as well. We invite you up for DC, and can we show where Bob sits? Can we break TV rules here? This is Bob Franken, who's sitting 7 feet away from me. We didn't have room at the desk.
I'm having a timeout. Okay?
My apologies to you, Bob. Next time we'll let you sit at the big boy table.
They're going to wash my mouth out with soap.
Zerlina Maxwell, Rio.com, syndicated columnist Bob Franken, Amy Holmes from The Blaze. Big thanks to all of you. One of the mysteries surrounding the assassination of John F. Kennedy has been solved. That's next.